Welcome everybody, Chris here. Welcome to the 365 Days of Healing with My Health. And today's hopefully an exciting day for everyone because what we're doing today is showing you how to make kombucha. And kombucha is a very old remedy, been around a very long time. It's a digestive drink that we can make at home with natural ingredients. Kombucha is a great lot of fun to make. You can utilize it to be a fun event for either yourself or you can get your kids to help you out, your family. It's so easy to do. Doesn't take too many ingredients, and the healthy benefits of kombucha for you and your family or whoever lives in your house is unbelievable. All the organs feel nourished, cleansed, and obviously revitalizes from the inside out. So what I'm going to do is show you what ingredients we need for kombucha and obviously the processes that go through to making it. So what we've got down here is a nice big tub, and this one holds probably around about 2 or 3 liters. You don't necessarily need one quite this big. You can have a nice big saucepan that you can use at home. All the tub is used for is the steeping of the tea. And with kombucha, the main ingredients with it is tea bags or tea. And what we've got here is what I like to use is 2 types of tea. So the first one we've got is just a straight organic black tea, or you can use say like an English tea or an Earl Grey or something along those lines. The other very important part is the green tea, and this one's also a nice organic one as well. What we do is for a literage of around 7 liters, which is what my big kombucha tub here holds, or my kombucha container. That's a 7-liter arrangement that we've got there. And what we would normally add for say something like 7 liters is 10 of each. So 10 of your black tea and 10 of your green tea. And what we're talking about is the actual tea bags. If you haven't got tea bags, you're going to have to source them, because putting loose tea into the actual tub will not work, unfortunately, because you don't want loose tea granules actually inside of your kombucha container, because you'll be drinking those. So you want to catch your little teas in your tea bags. Now, what we need to do is obviously steep those. So we boil the jug. When we're putting our 10 lots of green tea in, 10 lots of black tea in, keep them, around about, that's probably about 10 centimeters, 15 centimeters of water over the top to actually steep. The other thing I like to do is, whilst that's steeping, one of the most important ingredients in kombucha is your sugar, because this is your fermentation process. So as I said before, 7 liters over here requires 3 cups of sugar. Now you're probably thinking, wow, 3 cups of sugar, but it ferments. No different to what happens in beer or wine. It actually ferments and creates the digestive liquid that runs through the body that is actually very good for you. With the sugar, if you're a little bit sugar crazy and you don't want too much, maybe put 2 cups in and try it. And we'll talk about what it should taste like a little bit later. The other one that we've got is ginger. So what I like to do is cut up some slices of ginger. I normally put probably about 3 or 4 slices whilst it's steeping. So it's the 3 ingredients that go into that pot: the tea bags, the sugar, and the ginger. Once that's all in there, and as I said, put that sort of 10 centimeter, 15 centimeter water covering over the top, let it steep. What I like to do is just grab a normal old tea towel, and once it's in there, you pop it over the top to try and keep all of the vapors inside of the actual tub itself. So when it's in that position, as far as steeping time goes, longer is actually the better. And I've been making kombucha on and off for probably 6 or 7 years now. And something that I've found is that the stronger the brew or the stronger the steep, the better quality of the kombucha. Otherwise, it gets a little bit weak and it doesn't have that flavor in there. So my recommendation is anywhere from half an hour, even up to an hour. Probably no longer than an hour, but that's just a little tip from years and years and years of making kombucha. So once we got to that position and it's actually been a half an hour's gone by, we have obviously our liquid in there. What we would normally do, and I've done this previously, but you would normally have like a spatula like so, that you could actually pick out the tea bags with, drain the tea bags, throw them out, throw them in your compost, however you wish to dispose of them. And then what you're left with obviously is a really dark liquid. It looks like a black tea. Once we've got that black tea liquid, because these are glass, and it's important to use glass, like don't use a plastic container or anything that's not a natural material. What I find with that is that it doesn't ferment as well. So if you do have a nice big glass container, that's the preferred material to store your kombucha in. Obviously, because this is glass and we've let that steep for about an hour, it will be at a temperate temperature, so it won't be too hot. So the last thing you want to do is be pouring hot water into the glass. Obviously, it's going to crack. It's not rocket science, but that's what will happen. With something along this line, along this size, as I said before, 7 litres, what we would normally have pre-done before we put the tea bags in there, is put just straight filtered water. It's important to have filtered water. Don't just put tap water in there. It's defeating the purpose, obviously, of the organic and the health processes of it, because obviously in our tap water, we have a number of chemicals in there that won't react overly well to making something so healthy and so natural. So filtered water, which is a lot of houses these days. I have filtered water that comes out of my fridge and it's got a filtration system in it. If you don't have that, obviously you can buy large litres of filtered water from your local grocery stores or suppliers, wherever you get your food from. So filtered water is not hard to come by. What we do, obviously, is fill up to the brim, as you can see on this one, Exhibit A, that we have obviously filled that to the brim with both of the elixirs. So that's a combination of filtered water and obviously the tea that we had brewed. When we get to this point and we've got all of it in there, there's a magic ingredients inside this tub and it's called a SCOBY. Now it's quite a unusual looking little apparatus, but what the actual SCOBY is where all the alchemy happens and the magic. So without this little bugger in there, we don't get our magnificent kombucha. So I'll take one of the SCOBYs out just to show you what it looks like. And it just looks like a big wet bedcloth or a tea towel. And that's the actual color of a SCOBY. And you can see how thin it is. And it is the #1 fermentation process of what goes into kombucha. So these SCOBYs, you can actually buy those from health stores, organic supermarkets or places, or you can buy them online. I've actually picked up mine online where you can order it and they come much smaller than that. When you buy them, they're like a little round disc and they're probably the size of, I would say, a good size lemon or a good size orange is when you first get it. And it's very thin and it looks like a big disc. When you start to use it, it will over time get a little bit bigger. It actually gets to the size of the bowl that you're using or the jar that you're using. It starts to grow. And the other good thing about it is the SCOBY will also start to grow a little babies. So underneath it, you get new SCOBYs developing off the old SCOBY. One thing to happen, the SCOBYs last for about 3 to 4 months. Don't put SCOBYs in the fridge. Don't put SCOBYs into direct sunlight. They must be in a cool temperate area. I've just got a plastic container and I just lay them out nice and flat in the container itself when I'm not using it. And what we do is pile up, I've got a couple of SCOBYs in there which I'll get out, and once we've got them all laid up, we actually use a little bit of the elixir to keep it over the top so they don't dry out. Because if it starts to dry out, then the mold sets in and obviously your SCOBY's ruined. SCOBYs should be a very light brown in colour. When they start to go a darker brown, or you might even see some white pigmentation on the top of the SCOBY, it's starting to get to the end of its shelf life. It's starting to develop little molds, and we don't want those obviously into our magic brew because we want all the goodness in there. So I'm going to get the remainder of my SCOBYs out, and I've got 3 in there at the moment because my SCOBYs have been having fun times SCOBYing with each other and making little babies. And I'll just show you what a little baby looks like. If he will come out. Come to me. There he is. Oh, actually, that is a brand new one that has just been developed. So you can see how thin that one is. And here's the one we were talking about. So this is a good example to show you that's a baby and that's a little disc that's actually been created by Ma and Pa SCOBY. So as you can see, it's a little bit lighter in colour as well. And as I said before, when I'm using that in my next one, it'll grow to be as big as that SCOBY. So they grow very quickly. So now we've got all our SCOBYs out, we're basically left with just our elixir in there. And this one's been sitting for around about 10 days. And it's important that you have your brew sitting for at least 10 days. If you're in a slightly warmer climate, we're here in Queensland, so 10 days is perfect, but up in the tropics of Queensland, you would probably go anywhere maybe 6 to 7 days. It just depends on that air temperature. But 10 days I find in a moderate climate is certainly ample. Must be stored in a not direct sunlight, not in the fridge. Just put it in a cool room, maybe in the laundry, somewhere like that, and leave it. Basically, once you've got it filled up, you pop your lid on, leave it for 10 days, and the magic will happen. You don't need to feed it. You don't need to put anything else into it. It's important that every time you do walk past it, you talk to it, you give it some love, put some sunshine in there, let it know that you're excited about what's going to happen in 10 days' time. So that's important. Once that's actually done, as we have here with Exhibit A, it's now time to start to put this together, so decanter it. So I'll just move these ingredients out of the way, which was the starting ingredients. And what I've got here is some citrus, which we've grown off my orchard. So this is all natural organic. And I've got limes and lemons here today. Now, the reason I'm going to put lime and lemon juice into the actual kombucha mix is to give it a little bit of lift. So this is like a natural swepeffervescence. So inside here we do have a fermentation, so there's bubbles and things inside it, but what the citrus does is it actually gives it a natural lift. So it will actually create, when you open it, that sort of feeling, and it's actually got a nice flavour to it as well. You don't have to just use citrus. Obviously other citruses are oranges and mandarins, those sorts of things. You can use the juices out of those. You can really play with all the flavours. What I have made in the past, I've used pomegranate, I've used passion fruit. There's a number of other different fruits, which is any fruit that's got a liquid in it. If you like pawpaw, watermelon, be creative. Do whatever flavour you want, because it just actually provides a little bit of a different type of taste. If you don't put anything in it, that's fine too. You just get the straight original flavour, which is where you've probably had kombucha out of the fridge in a store, and if it's got no flavourings in it, it'll still be perfectly fine. It just depends on what flavour you do like. So, without further ado, let's show you what we do. So we've got a lime here. We give that a little bit of a squeeze just to get all the goodness out. And while we're at it, we'll pop some more in here as well. And once we've got all the juice, we just pour it straight into the top. Now what we're going to do is cut all these up, put the whole lot in. So we might take a break, and we'll be back. Okay, so we're just doing the last of the citrus to put into our brew, and we will be getting very close to decantering. So what I've put in there, as I keep saying, it's about 7 litres. So you can do the math at home, but 7 litres works out to be about 3 lemons and 3 limes. So if you've got anything less than that, 2 lemons, 2 limes, etc., etc., etc. Once you've actually got the liquid or the citrus in there, just give it a good stir, just so we've got it nice and even, because once we start decantering out the nozzle, we want to make sure we've got an even spread of both the kombucha and the actual citrus that's gone in there. So what I'll do, I'll just show you what it actually looks like in the glass. So I'll just get a small glass here first before I have a talk to you about the bottles. So that's basically the actual liquid itself. As you can see, it's sort of like a very light brown. In fact, it actually, to be perfectly honest, it looks a little bit like the colour amber, like a beer has just been poured. It's that similar type of colour. But very crystal clear as far as the content is concerned. It hasn't certainly got any tea bag elements in it, and it certainly has gone to a completely different level after having 10 days of fermenting. So when we are brewing, the bottles that I've actually got here, these are ones that you can buy pretty much at most convenience stores or supermarkets. Important part is, I mean, this has got like a small rubber suction cap on the end, and when we push it down, it actually locks in. We want to make sure that it does lock in and doesn't let any air out. The actual other bottles that you can use, if you haven't got any of these particular ones, here's some an old apple cider bottle, and it's actually got a screw top on it. So as long as it's glass, absolutely imperative that you do put your kombucha in glass. Don't put it inside plastic bottles. And if you've got one that's just got a screw top, same, just give it a nice twist, keep all the air inside. They won't explode. It's not like ginger beer, but the problem is if you forget about it and it's actually been left there for, say, another week in the bottle and you haven't touched it, you are getting to the stage where the pressure inside the bottle will get too much and it probably will explode out the top. So when we're decanting, what we do is, and I'll show you the first one, we'll turn it around. It comes out nice and quick, and I'll show you how far that we actually do fill it up to, and obviously how we store them. So once this has been filled up, 7 bottles, these are litre ones, mathematics, 7 litres makes 7 bottles. So at the end of the day, we have a good amount of kombucha that'll get us through for, depending on how fast you drink it, could be up to a week, could be up to 3 weeks, but the kombucha will actually hold or store for probably a month, month and a half. So as you can see, I've pretty much got it to the top. What we've left there is around about a 10 centimetre gap. We don't want it right up to the very top because as it's still going to be fermenting, and if we have it right up to the very top, it will pop the top. So once we've got it on, lock it down, make sure it's nice and cozy there, and that will now store for around about 2 to 3 days. And that's going to be in a very cool temperature. As I said, I just put mine in the laundry area where it's nice and cool in there. And after that 2 or 3 days where it's just been sitting with all its mates, we will then transport it to the fridge. Not beforehand. That's important that it does sit in the open air for at least that 2 to 3 days, and then transport it to the fridge where it will cool. And the difference there is once it's actually in the fridge, it will stop fermenting. That's why it won't explode. That's why I was saying earlier, if you leave it any longer than that, you get around that 10-day mark. It's going to be a little bit dangerous. You might walk into your laundry one day and there'll be a sea of kombucha on the floor. So that's once we've fermented. Once we've decanted all that, we walk away, and during that 2-day, 3-day period, and it goes back into the fridge. Just let it cool, and then you can obviously start drinking it, and let the healing begin, and you can fly. Okay, so we've come to the end, and I'm going to give you a really super quick recap, just so it's locked in and we know what we're doing. So remember, right at the very start, we've got our nice big container. Inside the container, we have 10 tea bags of green, 10 tea bags of the black, 3 cups of sugar, 3 or 4 cylinders of the actual ginger. That's a nice big concoction. On top goes the boiling water, 10, 15 centimeters above. Put the tea towel on top. That steeps for half an hour to an hour. Once that's done, we come over to the next stage, which is where everything goes inside. So this will be half full of the filtered water, and then we put the rest of the elixir into the top. SCOBY goes in at the end. So all of the liquid's in there. Once the SCOBYs are in, lid on top. Once that's sat for 10 days, we bring it back out, and then we show you what we did before. The citrus must go in after that 10 days. Stir it all round, possibly 3 lemons, 3 limes, depending on the size. Once it's all in there, decanter it into your bottles. They sit and store for 2 to 3 days, then into the fridge. And that's how simple it is. Job done. That's kombucha. Hope you enjoy and hope you give it a go. See you next time.